Hello, welcome to Season 11 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. This season, in each episode, we will not both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about it later. We have 10 previous seasons of doing exactly that, and it's time for something new. This season, each episode will focus on a larger horror topic, trend, or maybe even rumor. We'll speculate about upcoming movies, debate genre definitions, and do our best to apply the perspective of two people who have watched way too many horror movies to different types of horror media. Thanks for coming along for the ride. So it took us all of, like a dozen episodes to fall back into our old habits?
Yeah. But it was a good dozen episodes.
Yeah. I know the whole point of this season is that we're kind of like changing things up and not doing our normal formula of just watching a movie and talking about it. But for this week, we just watched a movie and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. But it'll be a little bit different because I didn't even think about doing facts.
Oh, I did do my intro just for old time's sake, and I kind of wanted to like knock the dust off, so I want to see how you feel about it.
Ooh.
But I was kind of hoping that for this one we could maybe talk a little bit more about the genres and how I think this one, like, so we've talked a lot this season about horror subgenres and like what horror movies fit into what ones. And then we've also talked about some kind of cross-cutting things like movie making techniques. So say you could have like a psychological horror film that is also a found footage film.
Yeah. Just
as an example. Another thing that I feel like we haven't really talked about is movies that are horror movies that are a horror subgenre that are also like in the mystery genre.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the stuff that we've watched fits into that. And I feel like there's some things that this movie did in 1980 that a ton of movies have done since then. So that's kind of the angle I want to come at it from. But I guess we should probably say what movie we're talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that is The Changeling from 1980.
Yeah. Not the remake, or not the...
Not Changeling.
Yeah,
which is
not Changeling.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you know anything at all about this one ahead of time?
Zero. Nothing.
Same. And how it kind of got on my radar was Russell brought it up and asked if we had done an episode on it yet. Because not everybody listens to every episode. The best people do, but not everyone does.
I mean, it's just, you can literally look, Russell. It's on iTunes. Sorry. I'm sorry.
But then super randomly, not that long after, I also heard like one of my random podcasts that I listened to talk about this movie while they were like on a totally different subject. And then they're like, oh yeah. And then The Changeling from 1980, it's like one of the best horror movies ever made. And they just went on this like random detour about this movie. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then reading more about it, I noticed that it was nominated for some awards at the time, but it is also considered a cult classic and is arguably one of the best horror films of all time and one of the most influential Canadian films of all time. And so that I thought was very interesting for a movie that has never even really come up in anything else that we've looked at in the past. But yeah, no, this one... Yeah, I would really like to at some point in the future do like a listener poll of, if you had to name like your top 5 scariest movies, what would they be? Mm-hmm. And I would love to do a whole season just going through those or something. Because I would imagine there'd be a lot of overlap. Yeah. But there would also be like a bunch of random ones that make the top that we don't know about. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, Changeling has a big following, or maybe not a big following, a passionate following. We'll go with that. And I had no idea what to expect. I was actually expecting creature horror when I went into it. Mm-hmm. And that is not what it was. So I will go ahead and introduce the movie, and then we can get into the ghostly details.
Ooh, okay.
In 1980, Pan-Canadian Film Distributors brought us The Changeling, a paranormal psychological horror movie set in Seattle, Washington. The plot follows a composer who relocates from New York City after the deaths of his wife and daughter. After moving into a historic mansion, he begins having paranormal experiences that slowly reveal a haunting tragedy that took place there in the past. This movie was made on a budget of $6.6 million and made about $12 million at the box office. It has a running time of 107 minutes and can currently be streamed on Tubi.
And Peacock.
Tubi's really moving up power rankings for me.
I can see that.
And so here's what's crazy about it, is the commercial breaks are just infrequent enough that I don't hate them, but I also pay more attention to the movie in between. Yeah. Because it's like I know in my mind that in like 25 minutes there's going to be a break, and that's when I'm going to get up and use the bathroom, or that's when I'm going to get up and get another Mountain Dew or something, and I don't just do all the stuff during the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd see that.
So
yeah. See that. Yeah, we watched it on Peacock, but I really wish I watched it on Tubi to get those little breakies in.
Yeah. So, what was like your overall impression of this movie? Like, say somebody asks if you've ever seen it and what you thought. Like, what would be your like couple sentence description?
Before that, I have a question. What was that Donald Sutherland movie that we watched? Don't Look Now, Don't Look Back, Don't Look.
I thought it was Don't Look Now, but let me double check because I will just look at our past episodes like Russell didn't.
It's on Spotify. Like, it's literally the whole thing. YouTube, Spotify.
It is Don't Look Now, confirmed.
Cool. So, it honestly, like, my first initial thought was it reminded me of, like, a mixture of Don't Look Now and, Don't Look Now, the intro to Shining, in a way, and... I
can see that.
Gosh, there's one more I can't think of. Basically, like, it made me think, because of, like, Don't Look Now and how that movie was, it made me kind of think, like, well, here we go. Like, here's this adventure. Not necessarily the biggest fan of Don't Look Now, so I was like, surely this would be a little bit different. But I was also, like, I was cool with it. Like, I was in the mood to watch, like, an older movie. So, like, it was, like, literally the perfect combo, because I was in the mood for that. So, like, when I told Daniel this, but because of how crazy life is, like, it took me 3 days to watch it. And, by the third day, I was not in the mood to watch an old movie. But regardless, like, I didn't actually think it was, like, the worst. And maybe it's because we took a break from movies or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, like, just the intro, like, I was pretty drawn in trying to figure out everything going on.
Yeah.
I will say my first opinion based off of like 30 minutes of the movie was just confusion. It was hard to kind of understand what was going on. Like, I felt like there were not a lot of words said during this film. Or if there was, maybe I just couldn't hear them. But, yeah, so that was the initial thought. Like, if you start off with like your wife and kid dying, that's pretty intense, like, scene to start off with. So it can only go downhill from there.
Yeah, subject matter wise, it was a real dark movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the story was definitely a big part of it. And like developing the plot and kind of showing you new information over time, but none of it like made you feel better about things. And, very similar to what you said about it reminding you of a movie from 1973. This was in 1980, but it felt older. And one of the first things I had in my notes was that it felt very made for TV.
Oh, yeah.
And I think part of that, or a big thing that I kind of caught on to early and then couldn't unnotice, was just the sound felt very dull. Like, it didn't really feel like the intense, like, theater type experience to really like underpin some of the more dramatic moments and stuff. And so I didn't feel like the mix of the audio really like helped the movie feel like bigger than it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that made some of the stuff suffer a little bit, because I feel like there were a lot of really well pulled off and intense moments, but a lot of times for me it felt kind of short just because it was almost like it was happening somewhere else. I wasn't pulled into the intensity of the moment just by how it was made.
definitely couldn't agree more with that. Like the audio, and maybe that's what made me think of like the older films. The other film I couldn't think of at the moment was The Exorcist. Just the whole gloomy kind of feel, and Pet Sematary too, the original in a way. But yeah, it was definitely, audio was definitely a little rough. And like where I struggle was like, he is a musician. So like you have a really fine opportunity.
A very prominent part. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a very like good opportunity to input some good stuff there, like to, and it just wasn't done. But, yeah, that was the initial thought.
Yeah, so I had, at the end of my notes, my movie summary was, it starts like Murder, She Wrote, it progresses like The Ring, and it ends like Matlock.
Ooh, I do like Matlock. I'm an old man.
But yeah, that kind of gets into, though, what I was talking about in the intro, in the very beginning, was just the idea of this being like a mystery movie, as much as it is a horror movie.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like that's a thing that, now that I'm thinking about it in those terms, we've come across a lot. And it seems to come in conjunction with paranormal movies, where there are these paranormal happenings that is making a person investigate an event, and then they find out about some dark secret. And so like The Ring was an example of that. I guess to some extent Babadook was a little bit like that, where they're like trying to figure out, what this thing is or what's happening, and they're like investigating during the day. But a lot of times there seems to be almost like I find it an interesting way to present it, because we've talked about this like ongoing plot in horror movies where like there are the nighttime scenes where the creepy, scary things happen, and then there are the daytime scenes where the plot progresses. And this is like using that formula, but adding like the mystery investigation as part of that, which gives it more of like a sense of urgency that keeps you drawn into the plot in between the scary parts.
Do you think that with these like horrors that are kind of mystery, but knowing that we watch like modern day that have like a better intensity just because of maybe budget or effects or whatever the case is, better audio, do you think that that's kind of numbed us to the ones in the past, like the same style? So I'm thinking like if you think about like realistically, Conjuring is like a similar situation, right? Where there's a haunting going on.
No, for sure.
There's like this search for it, and the intensity that you have. It's more focusing on the ghost, like the poltergeist aspect of it, I think is what it would be. But I figured that's what it was. That was the case for us.
No, I think that's probably very true. And I think that maybe that's the key to why this is like, has such a strong following. Because I think people who saw this movie in 1980 probably experienced it very differently than you and I did in 2022.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, I can't really, and I was looking back through the list of our episodes that is like very readily available, just in case anyone's curious, and trying to see, was there a movie older than 1980 that I felt like kind of had that same formula? And I didn't really have a good answer. I mean, like maybe like The Thing from Another World, where it's like the sci-fi thing and they're like investigating and stuff, but this I feel like you could point to as like a very direct ancestor of a lot of modern horror movies.
Yeah. It has to be, without a doubt. From the seance alone.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about like Insidious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, writing it down, another person moving the paper, that's, yes, without a doubt. And if anyone tries to tell me otherwise, I'll fight you.
What is going to be,
I won't fight you,
really frustrating is when somebody emails us like an episode that we did about a movie that's older than this that did it first.
Yeah, you know what I tell them?
And they're like, you have the list.
I say, blocked. Not welcome.
Can you block emails?
Yeah, I work in IT.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I got a list.
I don't know if you can or not. I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, so this one, I mean, like from a subgenre perspective, I think this one was kind of equal parts psychological and paranormal. Like there definitely was a very strong paranormal piece to it, but it also was very much like meant to make you feel bad based on the story that was revealed during the investigation.
And I thought it definitely, like, it had that balance relatively well, like, throughout. Like, yeah, as horror fans, we would want more of the supernatural side of it, I'm sure. But, like, everyone's in, like, there's a reason why mystery is just, like, mystery books are popular, mystery movies, like, that's just a huge thing. And, so I could definitely see it. I just felt like the balance, like, I don't think that, which granted, I wasn't around in 1980, but like, it doesn't seem, just from what I was reading up on, that it was marketed as like the scariest film of all time and then come out and just be a mystery horror. Like, those are the ones I have problems with.
Yeah.
If you're coming in and say, hey, this is mystery with some horror elements, it's like, I'm in. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not saying this is horror first. So that's what kind of got the pass for me a little bit. Definitely a little bit. I will say, I don't know if the death of the mom and kid was required.
So I was going back trying to figure out why that was. And the only thing I could come up with was they needed a reason for him to be motivated to do the seance. But it was just funny to me because after that happened, he only ever expressed any loss about the daughter.
That's true.
He just did not give.
He's like, we were getting a divorce.
Yeah, he's like, she talked too much.
Yeah.
But my daughter, I miss my daughter.
Yeah.
So.
I miss my daughter because she did not remind me of her mother.
Right, exactly.
No, it was just weird. For me, like I was saying, like, I think my biggest beef is yes, I understand. I was watched in separate parts, but I did go back and continue, when I picked it back up, it just felt like it wasn't a cohesive part until like maybe 3/4 or maybe like halfway through. I feel, or maybe like even a little bit past halfway through, where I felt like, okay, I get what's going on. Like, I knew what was going on, but it's like, I get how this ties to the story. I feel like it was just kind of random stuff.
Yeah. And I did see on Wikipedia that the screenplay was based on events that a writer claimed that he had experienced in real life. Oh. And so I kind of wondered how much of it is like he had written like a long account of the events and they knew they had to get all this set up in there because there was stuff that like called back to that, but didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. Because the first part felt a little more disjointed and a little more rushed because it's like, oh yeah, this guy is on vacation with his wife and kid. They get hit by a truck. All of a sudden he is in an apartment. And then all of a sudden he's in this old mansion in Seattle. And you're just like, wait, where are we? What happened? Mm-hmm. Is this before or after? Like, what's going on? So there was a lot in the beginning, but then it kind of hit its stride. I agree, maybe halfway through.
Also, hey, what was the deal with him going to class and there being like a billion people in there? Was it just kind of pointing out that he was like,
So, how we talked about, so I'm glad you brought that up because I had that in my notes too. You know how we talked about with Sleepaway Camp? Like the writer must have really thought he was good at baseball as a kid because there was that random 30-minute scene of like the little kids somehow just like destroying the other kids at baseball.
Yeah.
And they were just really into that. That's exactly how I felt when I saw the scene where he's like, well, only 23 people signed up for this class, but looks like we've got about 300 in this auditorium.
Yeah.
Here's how you tickle those ivories, kids. And it's just like, what is going on right now?
It also would have been better, like, if he sat down and played, like, some bebop, like, keyboard or piano stuff, just, like, from the 50s.
You got what I need.
Yeah.
Just super off key.
Yeah. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. But anyway, there was some weird stuff in getting things going, but after that, it progressed a lot better and felt a lot more, I guess, like what we would be accustomed to in a more paranormal horror movie.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorite scenes?
I did. Let me get to my link. Let me get my notes. While I'm getting to my notes, did you have any favorite scenes?
I did. I had just a couple that I thought were good. And I say good, but I almost feel bad saying that. Almost like more creepy or disturbing. But that's kind of what stood out about this movie. And one of them was when the he's in the house and then that ball bounces down the stairs. Yeah. And then he drives out and just throws it off a bridge and goes home, and then the ball bounces down the stairs again. Like, just that was another one of those scenes where, like, you knew it was coming, but they still pulled it off well. Like, it still kind of gave you the chills as it was happening. And that's a thing that I really like and admire in horror movies, is when they can set up a scene where you're like, yeah, I know what's about to happen, but it's still executed in a way that is effective. Because I think that takes a lot of skill in movie making.
What if that's the reason why they had to get rid of the mom and kid, because he wasn't alone throughout the whole thing, but like during that, it's like
why would he have a child's toy?
Am I going crazy? Well, yeah, that, but also like he doesn't have someone to say, no, I'm not going crazy.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
So, and then another scene that I had was just like when you find out like what actually happened to the ghost kid. And like the visuals of that with like the dad drowning him, like that was deeply disturbing.
Really disturbing, yeah. So I think my favorite, definitely like the ball scene. Mine was towards the end when he looks in the mirror and the mirror explodes on him and he gets glass. But like when it explodes, it shows the face of the guy upside down with blood on his face.
Yeah,
like I knew what they were getting at with that, and I know that's common in horror movies now. Like that's 100% been, used now for sure. And so it's just like, that was probably my favorite specific scene. I mean, leading up to that too, or from then kind of on to, granted it was close to the end, but still, that was probably the most like seeing that I thought like, this is a horror jump scare. If it was 2000s, it'd be loud music right when you see that face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good one. But then the only other scene that I had that I wanted to talk about was the most dangerous villain in the movie in the present was a small antique wheelchair.
I know. Oh, God, dude, I struggle with that.
That was one that was not pulled off quite so well.
Yeah, flip it upside down.
Yeah, exactly. Like, go down the stairs. Like, this doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was some stuff that was a little campy and not... Maybe they tried to pull off that they didn't quite have the visual effects budget to make convincing, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But on the whole, I thought that it was a compelling enough story that it got you like mentally engaged. Mm-hmm. And then it was depressing enough that it was like disturbing. So I could see this one being one that you walk away from feeling like just very uncomfortable, which I think is kind of the ultimate goal of a psychological horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, if that was their ultimate goal, that's what they pulled off. And there's a pass, obviously, because of the age of the film, that where audio is not the greatest and video quality is not the greatest. So I think they get a little pass. Like, I feel like if this were to come out modern day, we might struggle, like this exact film.
Oh, sure.
But just like better audio. I think we'd still probably struggle with it. But overall, like, I didn't think it was bad. I don't necessarily plan on watching it again, but if you told me like, hey, you gotta watch Don't Look Back or this, or you're gonna die, I say kill me. No, I would I would watch this one because there was no beef with it. I mean, not any huge major beef with it.
Yep.
Except for all politicians have a dead body in the closet, just for the record.
Oh yeah, no, that's
yeah.
It's one of those things where like they're just pointing out how scary real life is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like, hey, what's the worst thing that happened? A corrupt politician. Let's make a movie and have a part about that. And it's like, yeah, this is our world.
Yeah, I feel like it almost made this politician like more sympathetic than he should.
I know. I felt bad for him. I was like, hey, he's really not that bad. He didn't kill him. His dad did.
Yeah, I mean, got everything on a silver platter, but at least he's not actively harmed anyone. And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com. Or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening. So I don't think we should bring up that it's 420.
Ever?
Well, no, because like, and not because of the like. So this will come out like way after that, but we're recording on 420. But I think people know that we record in advance, so I'm not worried about that. I just don't want them to think we were drunk while we were recording it.
I mean, you might as well just smoke them if you got them.
What do you mean?
Are you saying we don't want to bring up it's 420 because it's Hitler's birthday?
Well, no, just because it's like a drinking
April
holiday.
20th? Oh, because my 5th grade girlfriend's birthday was 2 days.
Well, no, my thing is
before April 22nd.
Like 420 has a lot of baggage. If we were a little loose this episode, they will think we were drinking.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. No, we won't bring up that it's 420. But 96% sure it's 420. Not about drinking. It's about smoking hooters.
I don't think that's true at all.
What part of 96% true don't you understand?
Well, no, I mean, just like everything about 420 is very like drinking focused, you know, it's like, 420 bottles of beer on the wall, 420 bottles of beer.
Yeah.
Take one down and pass it around. 419 bottles of beer on the, like,
okay.
You know.
Well, so that's one for Daniel, but let me counter.
Okay.
420 doobies on the wall. 420 doobies on the wall. Take one down, smoke it, get high.
But like,
so that we're even, right?
But it's like it's saying, like oh yeah, today it's not 40 ounces, it's 420 ounces. Like,
well, marijuana can be measured in weight too. And in fact,
yeah, but you know, like drinking a 40, that's kind of like the whole point of the day. And then you get a little more. Like,
I think you might have a problem.
You're not going to gaslight me on this. I know what's up.
Hey, listen. Drink your life away on 420 or 419, whatever you want to do. But I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that I am 96% sure that I am 100% right on this statistic.
Yeah, sure. Next, you're going to try and tell me that President's Day isn't for fireworks and grilling.
No, President's Day is to set a precedence.
Touche.
That's fact.